This feels like one of those movies that someone came up with a really good twist, but then had no idea how to just surround that twist with actual story. Very quickly, if you are new here, I like to cover off those movies that get a little bit less talked about and less reviewed. Just try and find a hidden gem for myself and recommend onto you guys. So please do hit subscribe, it really does help out the channel. But that being said, let's get on with the review. Malicious Mind Games. Now this movie really did intrigue me, but as the movie progressed, I will be honest, it frustrated me more than it intrigued me as I go on. This movie centres around a character, Isabel. Now, her and her daughter have moved to a new town. We learn that her husband passed away about a year ago, so it's kind of like a fresh start for them, and she takes up a job as a security guard at some theatre. Since she's on the back shift, she is just tanking caffeine and energy shots as well to get through it. I mean, the energy shots she uses, my first time at like a gaming cafe, I took too many of those energy shots and I was just shaking. So I can only imagine the shit it's wreaking on her system. But while she's at work, a local comes out and just introduces herself as quite friendly, but then just raises a little bit of suspicion around the theatre. You know, people come and go. The owner of it, Cameron, just seems a little bit sus as well. And also, she is having a lot of hallucinations. I mean, who the fuck is she trying to save in this one? I mean, she's hallucinating someone's getting chased, but if this was real, her approach was just fucking awful. It is one of those kind of convenient movies because, and bear with me here, so Isabel is Rosaline's mum, and the woman that comes and introduces herself to Isabel is Megan. Now, Megan's son starts dating Isabel's daughter. It's just very convenient. Even more, the school is putting on a play that will take place in this theatre. The boyfriend is in the play, and so the daughter ends up getting in the play. So there's a lot of characters here. There's a bare cast of people to keep your eye on and kind of keep track of as this movie goes, which can be confusing, but that also is just due to the story here. But they're all within like the same bubble. It just feels like quite a contrivance that they've done this. But when she's on shift, she sees somebody getting attacked in a window and so calls the police. It turns out Megan is somehow involved in this scenario, and so Isabel starts seeing red flags everywhere and gets really confused by this. She bumps into Megan a few more times, and Megan pretends like they've not seen each other before, and some of the things they spoke about in the first conversation, Megan pretends just like never happened. So this is what they mean by malicious mind games. They're really fucking with Isabel here. And with you as an audience, because I'll be honest, the character's confused in this movie, and you're watching it trying to follow it, and you're fucking confused as well. But whilst on security, she's also got the CCTV footage. She starts overhearing conversations with the theatre manager as well, and so everything just feels connected to her. But with all these hallucinations on top of all her suspicions, she wants to investigate things, but she's also struggling to kind of trust herself and trust what she sees. I do quite like that aspect to it. Give the movie some props for that. That was interesting. You know, whilst all this is going on, of course she feels like she's losing her mind. Her relationship with her daughter, it starts to waver, but thankfully it never gets unbelievable, and they never seem to butt heads though properly. It does feel like a very natural mother-daughter relationship, and that was great to see here. But really, her goal in this movie is trying to understand what Megan is hiding, because she's either lying to her or not remembering conversations. Trying to understand what's happening with the theatre manager, Cameron, because she's hearing people coming in and out that are possibly loan sharks. The manager is also very dismissive of Isabel when she's trying to offer a bit of support. She finds things that she should not be finding, but yet no one will give her an answer as to why. And whilst all of this is going on, there's a police investigation as well. After that initial call out to the police when she's seen somebody getting attacked, the police are involved in this because more and more is happening. There are some events that take place, but because the police are investigating it, they're not necessarily lying to her, but they are still fucking with her because they're telling her their opinion straight. They're telling her what information, evidence they've got. It goes against her gut feeling, and so she has to go above that. Be honest, in the acting in here as well, nobody was a real standout. If anyone, I think Rosaline the daughter was definitely the best here. The rest of the cast didn't set too high a bar. Even still, Rosaline was really good as a daughter. She was likeable. She made sure there was a good relationship and good chemistry with the mum. As confusing as the movie was watching it, it all does tie up in the end, and you do leave understanding it. But it does that thing as well where, I don't know whose choice it was, but sometimes it does like a TV fade. You know, I'm going to throw one up and you'll know exactly what I mean. But you know that thing where a scene will just cut and then it'll move into like a fading in nice shot of the city? The film does that a couple of times, and it really fucks me off because it doesn't do it all the time. So somebody made the choice that in those few instances it was like the best direction to do, but it just makes it feel like a TV drama more than a movie itself. It is a very simple thing and it's a very simple transition, but it does really lend itself to television instead of movies. And whenever I see it, it just stands out like a sore thumb, and it takes me out of any movie I'm watching. That's probably a personal thing, I don't know about you. Without spoiling this twist of the movie, I'm going to lead into I have questions. Just that part of the video I'm going to talk about a few things that stood out to me that either needed a bit more explanation or that just did not make sense. Now, Isabel sees this person being attacked. There's no doubt about that. Well, there is in her head. She's dead set on it being a murder. Like, dead set on it. Anybody she talks to, she mentions murder from the get-go and she keeps referring to it as a murder. All she's seen was somebody being attacked and pulled away from a window. So I don't know why she made that leap and then was so set on it. I think the movie is also quite aware that you're probably bored at this point. In one of the first conversations with Megan, she mentions that she got something in a raffle. Then about half an hour into the movie, Isabel uncovers this item but the movie does a flashback to the conversation half an hour ago. So I think the editors must have been aware that you're either bored at this point or just it wasn't discussed well enough for you to remember that that is a key piece of information. Whilst there's a lot of hallucinations in this movie, two in particular stand out. The very first one of the movie, that is the end of the movie. Can she fucking see the future now as well or something like that? Because that is the end of the film when they're tied up on the stage of the theatre, yet she hallucinated it at the very start. And secondly, this one just doesn't make sense. We as an audience see a man coming towards the car, but Isabel's not looking. Isabel looks up and gets a quick scare. That's fine. But because we're seeing it from the angle we are, the audience is seeing the hallucination, not the character, if that makes sense. Because she's got her head down. She's not aware of it. So how is she imagining something that's happening like way over here while she's looking down at her feet? Also, just very quickly, I'm going to mention Henry in this. Henry's the teacher and kind of becomes the friend of Isabel in this movie. But in two separate instances, he loses either his wallet or his phone, which leads him to go into certain situations. Get this fucker a bag. Get this guy something to just remember his shit by. He should be bringing back those 90s chains on your belt, just so he never loses his wallet, because I don't know how the fuck he keeps losing things. He's two of them, and then there's another character later in the movie that loses something, and that's how they enter a situation. At once I would accept. 3 times feels like lazy writing to just make sure a character is in a certain place. And lastly, this doesn't need explanation, but it is just a spoiler. See when the police come in at the very end, what they're witnessing is an attempted murder. But yet the police officer comes in with an attitude just like, well, what do we have here? Mate, somebody's being killed on stage right now. You need to do something about it. But he's so calm and nonchalant about it. Just quickly, while she's looking into things, how is this hidden? She even says I'm hiding. That's not hidden. Like, we can see you miles away. And also, is this not the most suspicious man you've ever seen in a movie who then has nothing to do with the rest of the movie? He doesn't come back into it. There's something just so sus about him. Like, I thought he was going to have something to do with like a murder and he was carrying out some evidence. He doesn't come back in the movie. But look at this guy. With all my questions and everything else I've said, where would I be putting Malicious Mind Games? If you have nothing else to watch on your list, go for Malicious Mind Games. At the very least, it's an interesting thriller that's going to keep you guessing along the way, just in the way that Isabel is. That's how I felt watching the movie. I felt as confused as she did. So the movie done its job there, but with a fair amount of kind of stale acting, and a twist must have been the first thing they thought of and then they wrote the rest of the movie. The movie feels like it's kind of stumbling its way along just to reach this twist and reach this massive reveal. It's not a movie you're going to necessarily remember, but it will pass some time if you've got nothing else to do. Now look, have you seen Malicious Mind Games? If you have, please do let me know if we agree or disagree. And if you've made it this far, please do consider hitting subscribe. It really does help out the channel. But with everything been said, and as always, thank you so much for watching.